The sound of hushed voices drifted through the slightly ajar door of my mother-in-law's study. I hadn't meant to eavesdrop, but the urgency in David's tone stopped me in my tracks. "Mom, we need to be careful. Amy can't find out about this," my husband whispered. I froze, my hand hovering inches from the doorknob. What couldn't I find out about? Patricia's voice, always so prim and proper, responded with uncharacteristic sharpness. "David, you're playing a dangerous game. How long do you think you can keep this up?" My heart raced. I'd always prided myself on the openness David and I shared in our marriage. What secret could be so dire that he'd keep it from me? I leaned closer, straining to hear more. "I don't have a choice," David said, his voice thick with emotion. "If Amy knew the truth, it would destroy everything we've built." The floorboard beneath my feet creaked, and the voices inside the study fell silent. I quickly retreated, my mind reeling. Later that evening, as David and I drove home from his parents' house, I couldn't shake the feeling of unease that had settled over me. "You're awfully quiet tonight," David remarked, glancing at me from the driver's seat. "Everything okay?" I forced a smile. "Just tired, I guess. Long day at work." He nodded, seemingly satisfied with my explanation. "Well, we're almost home. Maybe we can open that bottle of wine we've been saving?" "Sounds perfect," I lied, my stomach churning. As we pulled into our driveway, I decided to test the waters. "So how's your mom doing? She seemed a bit off tonight." David's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "Oh, I didn't notice anything unusual." "Really?" I pressed. "I thought I heard you two having a pretty intense conversation in her study." His face paled slightly. "You must have misheard. We were just discussing some boring family business stuff." I nodded, not believing him for a second. "Of course, my mistake." Inside our home, I watched David closely as he uncorked the wine and poured 2 glasses. His movements were stiff, mechanical. He was hiding something, and it was eating him up inside. "David," I said softly, taking my glass, "you know you can tell me anything, right? No matter what it is." He paused, the wine bottle hovering over his glass. For a moment, I thought he might confess, but then he smiled, and the mask slipped back into place. "Of course, Amy. You know I'd never keep anything important from you." The lie hung heavy between us. That night, as David slept soundly beside me, I lay awake, my mind racing. What could be so terrible that he felt he needed to hide it from me? Was our entire marriage built on a foundation of secrets and lies? I thought back to the day we met 8 years ago. I'd been a newly minted social worker, idealistic and eager to change the world. David had swept me off my feet with his charm and his passion for helping others. We'd bonded over our shared desire to make a difference. Now I wondered if I'd ever really known him at all. The next morning I rose early, leaving David still asleep. I needed to clear my head, to figure out my next move. As I sipped my coffee on our back porch, my phone buzzed with a text from Olivia, my best friend and coworker. "Emergency at the shelter. Can you come in ASAP?" I hesitated, torn between my professional obligations and my personal crisis. But maybe throwing myself into work was exactly what I needed right now. "On my way," I replied, grabbing my keys. As I backed out of the driveway, I caught a glimpse of David watching me from our bedroom window. The look on his face was one of guilt and fear. Whatever he was hiding, I was determined to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. I spent the next few days in a fog of suspicion and hurt, watching David's every move for clues. The weight of his secret pressed down on me, making it hard to breathe. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. "David, we need to talk," I said one evening as he walked through the door. He froze, his hand still on the doorknob. "About what?" I took a deep breath. "About whatever it is you're hiding from me." David's face paled. "Amy, Don't lie to me," I cut him off. "I heard you talking to your mother. What's going on?" He slumped into a chair, looking defeated. "I didn't want you to find out like this." "Find out what?" I demanded, my voice rising. David ran a hand through his hair. "It's Michael. He's in trouble." "Your brother? What kind of trouble?" "His divorce hit him hard. He lost his job, he's drinking. Mom's been trying to help, but it's not enough." I felt a flicker of sympathy, quickly extinguished by anger. "And you've been giving them money, our money?" David nodded, unable to meet my eyes. "How much?" I asked, dreading the answer. He mumbled a number that made my head spin. It was more than we had in our savings account. "Are you insane?" I exploded. "We've been saving for our future, for a family, and you've just been handing it over to your deadbeat brother?" "He's not a deadbeat," David protested weakly. "He's going through a rough patch that's costing us everything we've worked for," I shouted. How could you do this without talking to me? I knew you wouldn't understand, David said, his voice hardening. Family comes first, Amy. I thought you knew that. I thought we were family, I shot back. Or does that only apply to the people you're related to by blood? David flinched as if I'd slapped him. That's not fair. No, what's not fair is you making huge financial decisions behind my back, I said, my voice shaking with rage. What's not fair is you choosing your brother over our marriage. I'm not choosing anyone over our marriage, David insisted. I'm trying to help someone in need. Isn't that what you do every day at work? Don't you dare compare this to my job. I hissed. I help people who have nowhere else to turn, not entitled man-children who can't handle a divorce. David's face darkened. You don't know what you're talking about. Michael's been through hell. And now we're going through hell because of him, I retorted. How long were you planning to keep this from me? Until we were completely broke? David's silence was damning. I can't believe this, I said, shaking my head. I don't even know who you are anymore. Amy, please. David reached for me, but I stepped back. We can figure this out. Can we? I asked, my voice hollow, because right now I'm not sure I can trust anything you say. I grabbed my keys and headed for the door. Where are you going? David called after me. I need some air, I said, not looking back. Don't wait up. As I drove aimlessly through the darkening streets, my mind raced. How had we gotten here? How had the man I loved, the man I thought I knew better than anyone, become a stranger? My phone buzzed with a text from David. I'm sorry. Please come home so we can talk. I ignored it, pulling into the parking lot of a bar I used to frequent in my college days. As I ordered a drink, I caught my reflection in the mirror behind the bar. The woman staring back at me looked lost, hurt, and angry. Rough night? The bartender asked sympathetically. I laughed bitterly. You have no idea. As I nursed my drink, I wondered how I could ever trust David again. And more importantly, what I was going to do next. The weeks following my confrontation with David were a blur of tension and resentment. We moved through our shared space like ghosts, barely acknowledging each other's presence. The weight of his betrayal hung heavy in the air, suffocating any attempt at normalcy. One evening, as I sat at our kitchen table reviewing case files, David cleared his throat. Amy, we need to talk about this. I looked up, my jaw clenched. About what? How you've been lying to me for months? He sighed, running a hand through his hair. I know I messed up, but Michael's family too. Don't you think he deserves our help? Our help? I scoffed. You mean my help, my money, my sacrifices. That's not fair, David protested. We're a team, remember? I slammed my hand on the table, making him jump. A team doesn't keep secrets, David. A team makes decisions together. Just then, David's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, his face paling slightly. Who is it? I demanded. It's Michael, he stammered. He needs more money. I felt something snap inside me. Absolutely not. We're done bankrolling your brother's pity party. David's eyes flashed with anger. You don't understand. He's in real trouble this time. And what about us? I shouted, gesturing around our modest apartment. We've put our lives on hold, our dreams of starting a family, all for what? So Michael can avoid growing up? It's not that simple, David argued. He's dealing with depression, addiction. Then he needs professional help, I cut him off. Not handouts from his big brother. David's phone buzzed again, more insistently this time. He looked at me pleadingly. I have to take this. As he stepped out onto the balcony to answer the call, I felt a surge of frustration and helplessness. Was this what our marriage had become? A series of lies and divided loyalties? I found myself staring at our wedding photo on the mantel. We looked so happy, so full of hope for the future. Where had those people gone? When David came back inside, his face was grim. Michael's in the hospital. He tried to hurt himself. My heart sank. Despite my anger, I couldn't help feeling a twinge of sympathy. Is he okay? David nodded, his eyes brimming with tears. They're keeping him for observation, but he needs us, Amy. Now more than ever. I took a deep breath, trying to sort through the whirlwind of emotions. What exactly are you asking me to do? David hesitated. I think he needs to come stay with us for a while, just until he gets back on his feet. The words hit me like a physical blow. Are you serious? You want to move your unstable brother into our home? It wouldn't be for long, David pleaded. Just a few weeks, maybe a month. I laughed bitterly. Right, because Michael has such a great track record of getting his life together quickly. Amy, please. David's voice cracked. I don't know what else to do. He's my brother. And I'm your wife, I shot back. Or have you forgotten that? The silence that followed was deafening. We stood there, staring at each other across a chasm that seemed to grow wider by the second. Finally, I spoke, my voice barely above a whisper. "If you bring Michael here, I'm leaving." David's face crumpled. "You don't mean that." "Try me," I said, surprised by the steel in my own voice. As I turned to walk away, David called out, "What happened to for better or for worse?" I paused at the doorway, not looking back. "This isn't worse, David. This is you choosing your family over me. Again." I grabbed my keys and my purse, ignoring David's pleas as I walked out the door. As I drove away, my vision blurred with tears. I realized I was facing an impossible choice. My marriage or my self-respect. And for the first time, I wasn't sure which one I valued more. I threw myself into work with a fervor that bordered on obsession. The shelter's constant demands provided a welcome distraction from the chaos of my personal life. Every night, I came home late, exhausted but grateful for the reprieve from the tension that now defined my marriage. One particularly grueling day, I was sorting through a mountain of paperwork when Olivia poked her head into my office. "Amy, you look like hell," she said bluntly. "What's going on?" I hesitated, but the concern in her eyes broke my resolve. The whole story came pouring out. David's deception, Michael's troubles, the ultimatum I'd given. Olivia listened intently, her brow furrowing. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair. "Honey, I hate to say this, but are you sure there isn't more to this story?" "What do you mean?" I asked, my stomach clenching. "It's just, I've known David for years. This doesn't sound like him. Are you sure Michael is the only one he's helping?" Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. I'd been so focused on Michael, I hadn't even considered other possibilities. "You think he might be lying about where all the money is going?" Olivia shrugged. "I'm just saying, it might be worth digging a little deeper." That night, I couldn't shake Olivia's words. When I got home, I found David asleep on the couch, his phone lying face up on the coffee table. Before I could stop myself, I picked it up. My hands shook as I scrolled through his recent calls. Michael's name appeared frequently, but there was another number, unlabeled, that showed up even more often. My heart raced as I tapped on it. A woman's voice answered. "David, I wasn't expecting to hear from you so late." I hung up immediately, my mind reeling. Who was she? Why was David calling her so frequently? Just then David stirred. "Amy, is that you?" I quickly put his phone down. "Yeah, just got home." He sat up, rubbing his eyes. "We need to talk about Michael. He's being released tomorrow, and I think—" "Not now, David," I cut him off. "I'm tired. We can discuss it in the morning." As I lay in bed that night, sleep eluded me. The unknown woman's voice echoed in my head, along with 1,000 unanswered questions. The next morning, I confronted David over breakfast. "Who is she?" He looked up from his coffee, confusion etched on his face. "Who?" "The woman you've been calling." "Don't lie to me, David. I saw your phone." His face paled. "You went through my phone?" "Answer the question," I demanded, my voice shaking. David sighed heavily. "It's not what you think, Amy. She's a therapist." I blinked, caught off guard. "A therapist?" He nodded. "For Michael, I've been coordinating his care to start trying to get him the help he needs." Relief washed over me, quickly followed by a wave of shame. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I knew how you felt about the situation. I didn't want to burden you with more of Michael's problems." I sat down heavily, my emotions a tangled mess. "David, we were supposed to be partners. You can't keep shutting me out like this." He reached for my hand. "You're right. I'm sorry. No more secrets, I promise." As I looked into his eyes, I wanted desperately to believe him, but a nagging doubt lingered. Was this really the whole truth or just another carefully crafted lie? "Okay," I said finally. "But things need to change. We can't go on like this." David nodded eagerly. "Absolutely. Whatever it takes." As we cleared the breakfast dishes together, a fragile peace settled over us. But in the back of my mind, Olivia's words still echoed. Was I missing something crucial? I made a decision then. I would give David one last chance to come clean. But if I found out he was still hiding anything, it would be the last straw. Our marriage hung by a thread, and I wasn't sure how much longer I could hold on. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was still off. Despite David's promises of transparency, the tension in our home remained palpable. I needed answers, and I knew just where to start. On a sunny Saturday morning, I drove to Patricia's house, my stomach in knots. As I pulled into the driveway, I noticed Michael's beat-up car parked out front. Perfect. I'd kill 2 birds with 1 stone. I rang the doorbell, plastering on a smile as Patricia answered. "Amy, what a lovely surprise," she exclaimed, her voice a touch too high. I hope I'm not interrupting anything, I said, stepping inside. Not at all, dear. Michael and I were just chatting. As we entered the living room, I saw Michael sprawled on the couch, looking far too comfortable for someone supposedly in crisis. Hey, Amy, he mumbled, barely looking up from his phone. Michael, I nodded curtly. How are you feeling? He shrugged. Better, I guess. Thanks for asking. I turned to Patricia, who was fidgeting with her necklace. I thought we could catch up. It's been a while since we've had a proper talk. Patricia's smile faltered slightly. Of course, dear. Would you like some tea? As she bustled off to the kitchen, I noticed a stack of travel brochures on the coffee table. Curiosity piqued. I picked one up. Luxury Bahamas Getaway, the cover proclaimed. Planning a trip? I asked Michael, trying to keep my voice neutral. He grinned. Yeah, Mom thinks a vacation might help me clear my head. Pretty sweet, huh? I felt the blood drain from my face. A luxury vacation? While David and I were pinching pennies to support him? Patricia returned with the tea, her eyes widening as she saw the brochure in my hand. Oh, that's just a bit of wishful thinking, she said quickly. Really? I countered, my anger rising. Because Michael seems to think it's a done deal. Patricia shot Michael a warning look. Amy, dear, it's not what you think. Then what is it? I demanded, my voice shaking. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're planning an extravagant vacation while my husband and I sacrifice everything to keep Michael afloat. Michael sat up, his face flushing. Hey, that's not fair. I've been through hell. And what about us? I shouted, surprising even myself with the intensity of my outburst. Do you have any idea what this has done to my marriage, to our future? Patricia stepped between us, her hands raised placatingly. Amy, please calm down. We're family. Family? I laughed bitterly. Is that what you call this? Lying, manipulating, taking advantage of David's generosity? We haven't taken advantage of anyone, Patricia insisted. David offered to help. With necessities. I cut her off. Not luxury vacations. Michael stood up, his face dark with anger. You don't know anything about what I've been through. You have no right to judge. I have every right, I shouted back. It's my life, my future you're gambling with. The room fell silent, the weight of my words hanging heavy in the air. Patricia looked close to tears, while Michael glared at me with undisguised hostility. I think, Patricia said quietly, that perhaps it's best if you leave, Amy. I nodded, suddenly feeling drained. I couldn't agree more. As I walked to my car, my hands shaking, I pulled out my phone and dialed Olivia's number. Liv? It's me. I need your help with something. Of course, honey. What's going on? I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what I was about to say. I need you to recommend a good private investigator. It's time I found out what's really going on. As I hung up, I felt a strange mix of dread and determination. Whatever David was hiding, whatever game his family was playing, I was done being a pawn. It was time to take control of my own story. I started the car, my mind racing with possibilities. One thing was certain, nothing would ever be the same after this. And for the first time in months, that thought didn't terrify me. It empowered me. I couldn't sleep that night, my mind racing with questions and suspicions. By morning, I'd made up my mind. I was going to confront Patricia and Michael head-on. Consequences be damned. I drove to Patricia's house, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. As I pulled up, I saw David's car in the driveway. My stomach dropped. What was he doing here? I marched up to the front door and rang the bell, my heart pounding. Patricia answered, her face paling when she saw me. Amy, this isn't a good time. I pushed past her into the house. It's never a good time for the truth, is it, Patricia? In the living room, I found David and Michael, both looking startled by my sudden appearance. The travel brochures were still scattered on the coffee table. What's going on here? I demanded, my voice shaking with anger. David stood up, his hands raised placatingly. Amy, calm down. We can explain. Explain what? I shouted. How you're all planning a luxury vacation while David and I struggle to make ends meet. How you've been lying to me for months. Michael scoffed. You don't know what you're talking about. I rounded on him. Oh, really? Then enlighten me, Michael. Tell me why you deserve a trip to the Bahamas while my husband and I put our lives on hold for you. Patricia stepped between us. Amy, please. This isn't what it looks like. Then what is it? I asked, my voice breaking. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're all in on some big secret, and I'm the only one being left in the dark. David approached me, his face etched with concern. Amy, honey, you've got it all wrong. The vacation, it's not what you think. Then what is it, David? I asked, tears welling in my eyes. Because I'm tired of the lies and the half-truths. I want the whole story right now. The room fell silent, the tension palpable. Finally, Patricia spoke up. The vacation, it was meant to be a surprise, for you and David. I blinked, caught off guard. What? David sighed heavily. We've all been pitching in to plan a family vacation, a chance for all of us to reconnect and heal. Michael's been helping with the arrangements as part of his therapy. I felt the ground shift beneath my feet. But, the money, your secret phone calls. The money was for Michael's therapy and some of the vacation expenses. David explained, and the calls were to the travel agent and therapist. I didn't want to ruin the surprise. I sank into a chair, my mind reeling. Why didn't you just tell me? Patricia sat beside me, taking my hand. We thought we were doing the right thing, keeping it a secret. We never meant to hurt you, Amy. As the truth sank in, I felt a mix of relief and embarrassment wash over me. But something still nagged at the back of my mind. David, if this was all innocent, why did you seem so guilty when I confronted you before? David's face fell, and he exchanged a look with Patricia that sent a chill down my spine. There's something else, Amy. Something we haven't told you. My heart raced. What is it? David took a deep breath. It's about Michael's ex-wife. She's threatening to take away his visitation rights with the kids. That's why we've been so secretive. We've been trying to gather evidence to help his case. The room spun around me. Just when I thought I had a handle on the truth, another bombshell dropped. And you didn't think I deserved to know this? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. We were trying to protect you, Patricia said softly. We didn't want to burden you with more family drama. I stood up abruptly, feeling suffocated. I need some air. As I stumbled out onto the porch, I heard David calling after me, but I couldn't face him. Not now. My world had been turned upside down once again, and I didn't know what to believe anymore. I got into my car, my hands shaking as I turned the key. As I drove away, I realized I was at a crossroads. Could I trust David and his family again? Or was this just another elaborate lie? One thing was clear, I needed answers, and I needed them now. No matter what it took, I was going to uncover the whole truth, once and for all. I sat in Olivia's office, my hands trembling as I recounted the confrontation at Patricia's house. Olivia listened intently, her brow furrowed with concern. Amy, she said gently when I finished, I hate to say this, but something still doesn't add up. The vacation, Michael's custody battle, it feels like they're hiding something bigger. I nodded, a lump forming in my throat. I know, that's why I need your help. Olivia leaned forward. What do you need? A private investigator, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. I need to know the truth, once and for all. Olivia's eyes widened, but she didn't hesitate. She scribbled a name and number on a sticky note. Call this guy. He's discreet and thorough. The next week was a blur of secret meetings and clandestine phone calls. I felt like I was living a double life, playing the role of supportive wife while secretly unraveling the threads of David's deception. Finally, the PI called with news. Mrs. Thompson, I have something you need to see. We met in a quiet coffee shop. The PI slid a manila envelope across the table. Are you sure you want to open this? He asked, his eyes sympathetic. I took a deep breath and nodded. I need to know. Inside were photos, bank statements, and a detailed report. As I flipped through the evidence, my world crumbled around me. David wasn't just supporting Michael. He was funding a lavish lifestyle for another woman, a young, beautiful woman I'd never seen before. The vacation plans, the secret phone calls, the drained bank accounts, it all led back to her. I felt physically ill. How long, I managed to choke out. The PI's voice was gentle. Based on the evidence, at least a year. A year. While I'd been worrying about our future, pinching pennies, and feeling guilty for doubting David, he'd been living a double life. I stumbled out of the coffee shop, gasping for air. My phone buzzed, a text from David. Can't wait to see you tonight. Love you. The words, once a comfort, now felt like a knife twisting in my gut. I drove to Olivia's house on autopilot, my mind a whirlwind of betrayal and rage. She opened the door, took one look at my face, and pulled me into a fierce hug. Oh, honey, she murmured. What did you find out? Through tears, I told her everything. Olivia listened, her face a mix of shock and fury. That bastard, she hissed. What are you going to do? I stood up, suddenly feeling more clear-headed than I had in months. I'm going to confront him. Tonight, and I want you there with me. Olivia nodded without hesitation. I've got your back. We drove to my house in tense silence. As we pulled up, I saw David's car in the driveway. My heart raced, but I felt a strange calm settle over me. I walked into the house, Olivia right behind me. David was in the kitchen, humming as he cooked dinner. "Amy," he said, smiling as he turned. His face fell when he saw Olivia and the look on my face. "What's going on?" I tossed the manila envelope on the counter. "Why don't you tell me, David?" He paled as he flipped through the contents, his hands shaking. "Amy, I can explain." "Explain what?" I shouted, my calm evaporating. "How you've been lying to me for a year, how you've been stealing our future to fund your affair." David's face crumpled. "It's not what you think." "Then what is it?" I demanded, tears streaming down my face. "Because from where I'm standing, it looks like our entire marriage has been a lie." David reached for me, but I recoiled. "Don't touch me," I hissed. In that moment, looking at the man I thought I knew, I felt something inside me break. But alongside the pain, I felt a surge of strength I didn't know I possessed. "I want you out," I said, my voice steady. "Tonight. And don't even think about going to your family for help. They're going to know exactly what kind of man you really are." As David stammered and pleaded, I turned my back on him, walking out of the kitchen with Olivia by my side. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe again. The truth had shattered my world, but it had also set me free. The day I filed for separation was the day I reclaimed my life. As I walked out of the lawyer's office, divorce papers in hand, I felt a strange mix of grief and liberation. The life I'd known was over, but a new chapter was beginning. I'd called a family meeting at Patricia's house. It was time for everyone to know the truth. As I pulled up, I saw David's car already there. My hands shook as I grabbed the manila envelope from the passenger seat. Patricia answered the door, her face etched with concern. "Amy, dear, what's going on? David's been beside himself." I brushed past her into the living room. David, Michael, and Patricia's husband, George, were all there. David stood up when he saw me, his eyes pleading. "Amy, please, can we talk about this privately?" I shook my head. "No more secrets, David. It's time everyone knew the truth." I dumped the contents of the envelope onto the coffee table. Photos of David with his mistress, bank statements showing the money trail, the PI's detailed report, it was all there. The room fell silent as David's family absorbed the evidence of his betrayal. Patricia's hand flew to her mouth, Michael looked like he might be sick, and George's face hardened into a mask of disappointment. "How could you?" Patricia whispered, her voice breaking. David's shoulders slumped. I don't know, I made a mistake." "A mistake?" I cut in, my voice sharp. "A year-long affair isn't a mistake, David. It's a choice you made every single day while I worried about our future, while your family struggled." Michael stood up, his face flushed with anger. "You told me you were helping me, but you were just using me as a cover for this." David looked around the room, desperation in his eyes. "Please, I can explain." "There's nothing to explain," George said, his voice cold. "You've betrayed your wife, your family, and everything we thought you stood for." As the reality of his actions sank in, David crumpled into a chair, head in his hands. For a moment, I felt a flicker of pity. But then I remembered all the lies, all the nights I'd spent worrying and doubting myself, and my resolve hardened. "I've filed for separation," I announced. "I think it's best if we don't contact each other for a while." Patricia reached for my hand. "Amy, I'm so sorry. We had no idea." I squeezed her hand gently. "I know. This isn't your fault." As I turned to leave, David called out, his voice breaking. "Amy, please, I love you. We can fix this." I paused at the door, looking back at the man I'd once built my life around. "No, David, we can't. But I can fix myself." The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of legal meetings, therapy sessions, and long talks with Olivia. Slowly, I began to rediscover the woman I'd been before. Strong, independent, full of dreams. One evening, as Olivia and I shared a bottle of wine, she asked, "So, what's next for Amy Thompson?" I smiled, feeling a spark of excitement I hadn't felt in years. "I'm thinking a solo trip. Somewhere I've always wanted to go but never had the courage." Olivia raised her glass. "To new beginnings and solo adventures." As we clinked glasses, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. The pain of betrayal was still there, a dull ache in my chest, but alongside it was something new. Hope, possibility, and a fierce determination to write my own story. The next morning, I booked a ticket to Bali. As I confirmed the reservation, I caught sight of my reflection in the computer screen. The woman looking back at me was different from the one who'd stumbled upon David's secret all those months ago. She was stronger, wiser, and ready to embrace whatever came next. I thought about the family vacation David and his family had been planning, the one that had started this whole journey of discovery. In a way, I was still taking that trip, just not in the way any of us had expected. As I closed my laptop, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, I was excited to see where it might lead. My story wasn't over, it was just beginning. And this time, I was the one holding the pen.